Hello, everybody, and welcome back, all of you beautiful broken shirts out there. I am Jay from JCP, and again, I am joined by my lovely co-host Cole. And
What
Cole,
is
man,
up?
can you believe we're at the Super Bowl? We're not there, but I'm saying like we're here. The Super Bowl is approaching
So
next
you didn't
weekend.
get tickets?
Dude, I'm not going to take a loan out for the rest of my life. I'm not going to be in debt. You know how much those cost, man?
Oh man, but no, in all seriousness, football fans, I know Jacob, you're relatively new to this whole football world, so it's a little crazy, but for us who have been established with many years, y'all will know what I'm talking about. It always flies and it sucks because once we get to the point to where it's the off season, everybody, like, I'm already experiencing this with college football. Like, I miss it so much. Like, it was just so much fun, right? And it'll be the same for some with the NFL. So, uh, unfortunate timing, but hey, now we get to look forward to the draft and all that fun
In
stuff,
the off season as well, which
right?
we will cover when that approaches. But
You
anyway,
better
Cole,
believe it.
we this is not going to work like how our usual shows go. We're not going to start off with NFL news, have an ending topic. We're not going to do anything with that. We're
We're
going
not.
to just talk about nope. We're just going to talk about this Super Bowl matchup and what it means for these teams and how these teams were in basically a year in review, how they were this season, what expectations they had, what did they accomplish, what didn't they accomplish, were there any things left behind in this team and these two teams matching up in the Super Bowl that will, come to bite them in the butt or maybe help them out in this advantage at the Super Bowl?
Well, are we gonna talk about Taylor Swift?
No, we're not going to talk about Taylor Swift. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that breaks your heart, Cole. Yeah, it truly does.
Hey, Travis Kelsey might have just disliked this, okay? This is on you. This is your fault.
I'm so sorry. Anyway, let's go into it and explain what we're going to do. Basically, we're going to look at the two teams and basically give a year in review to um how we felt about this team, what they went through in this season, and we're going to give our expectations for what's going to happen at the Super Bowl in the end of the episode. So let's kick it off and let's start with Cole. What team should we start off with? Chiefs or 49ers?
Well, let's start with the guys in red that won the AFC. Let's go KC.
Let's go KC. All right. So the Chiefs year in review, and I don't think this was one of the most confusing years to be a Chiefs fan or even just watching football for the Chiefs because you have the Super Bowl defenders. These guys won the Super Bowl against the Eagles last year, and they started off at a really rocky start, losing at Arrowhead week 1 against the Detroit Lions, which, by the way, NFL scriptwriters, chef's kiss off to you. Could not think of a more perfect matchup to start off the NFL season as well. This was the first game of the season with Chiefs and Lions, if you remember that. And, losing that game very closely to 21-20. And then just went on a killing streak. And it was not pretty for anyone who came in path with the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes had this was one of his down years, but he again played still like a top five quarterback.
You
It's insane
almost
what
said
I
wide
almost said wide
receiver.
receiver because
Hey,
I'm about to bring up their wide receiver core problems that they
yeah.
had basically for most of the year. It feels like Kadarius Toney was one of the biggest guys that was like basically losing them the game. I seen one guy on a podcast say it's better to have him out of the game and like replaced by a regular guy, like not an NFL player, because at least he won't get thrown the ball and turn into an interception
Hey, Pizza, do you remember who won that game, by the way, against the Lions?
it was the Lions, wasn't
But
it?
but but what about Aiden Hutchinson during that game? Like, he was getting held. How did they win?
Oh, dude, Don't bring me back, man. Don't bring me back to that.
I had to jab him, folks.
I guess we should also talk about that. I feel like the Chiefs this season have had a lot of help. I feel like in terms of the refereeing, like blatantly missed calls, and we've all seen the compilations, especially in that Vikings game where it was pretty close. It was a 27-20 win against the Vikings, and there was a time, I don't remember which receiver was it. Was it Marquez? Was it God? Who was the receiver that was it? Marquez Valdez-Scantling that took off his helmet.
Uh,
I feel like
it was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was MVS.
It was. There was a pass that was thrown in the end zone that was like overthrown, and then he took off his helmet. Which, if you take off your helmet, like you would literally like take it off, that should be called a flag. I think it's like a personal foul or something like that, where you take off your helmet because you can't do that. That's against the rules.
I forget the official ruling, but yeah, it's a flag.
And the refs just told him to put it back on.
Give him a slap on the wrist.
Anyway, that's not what this season. I don't want to say that that's what all this Chiefs team was really going for him.
I mean, I thought it was. Come on.
I thought it was Taylor too, Swift. But we had and Taylor Swift too. But we have to keep it, we have to keep it official on here, right?
That contract.
That imaginary contract that we have with some corporation.
Somebody sponsors us. I don't, Yeah, God sponsors us. Let's get it.
So I would say the Chiefs' brightest spot was Patrick Mahomes, obviously. Patrick Mahomes and this defense was one of the best defenses that the Kansas City Chiefs had in maybe their best defense of all time. I'm saying that as a newer fan, and I've heard some people say that as well, as just like of the Chiefs organization, not like of all time of any team.
I was gonna say
no, like just the Kansas City Chiefs, how the defense has played all year. So, in terms of that probably him and Patrick Mahomes probably the biggest upsides for this Kansas City Chiefs team. But not. This team is not perfect by all means, still taking pretty bad losses like the loss against the Raiders and the Broncos, and the Kadarius Toney's foot is bigger than his brain. Lost against the Bills. It's, the losses that we've seen were pretty bad, especially at Patrick Mahomes dealt with these losses. If you don't remember how in the Buffalo Bills loss, They had an amazing play at the end of the game that could have scored a touchdown, but right before the play, Kadarius Toney has his foot off sides, and the ref threw a flag as soon as the play was basically snapped. And then had that play happen, and Patrick Mahomes was crying and throwing a fit and blamed the refs at the press conference. Which one? I rarely ever see a player blame the referees, like actually point out like a refereeing botch. But even
all I ever seen.
Wildest call I've ever seen. Wildest call I've ever seen, man. Wildest call I've ever seen, man. Take greatness away from that. And it was horrible to see, especially with how they won the Super Bowl last year. No doubt a questionable call by the referees for them to win that game.
Well, and the thing about that, right? It's like it just shows the entitlement of Kansas City because, and I'm not gonna say every fan or every player, but the ones that matter, and kind of Patrick Mahomes. It's just from what it seems like he has everything he could ever want. He's got Andy Reid coaching him. And then how could it even get more, I deserve this? He literally seems to have the ref in his back pocket. So it's like,
literally talking to the referees on the sideline. Like,
how does anybody beat that, Jacob?
I don't know. There are teams that have beaten them, though. believe it
That
or
is
not,
true.
even though people think that the Kansas City Chiefs are the greatest football team of all time, like the Lions, Eagles, Packers, Bills, and Raiders. Which, by the way, I'm not an Eagles fan, but it was really satisfying to see the Eagles beat them. I know it's not. I know it's like it doesn't really mean anything, but it was still satisfying to see the Eagles beat the Chiefs with how questionable and ticky tacky that holding call was last year against them. Which, if you want my opinion, I do not think that was a holding call. I think it was like that was a really bad call by them. Um, but this team really just had more ups and downs than I can count, and more ups, I would say, than downs. Again, man, this like looking at their season, just how many points their defense scored, it's like it doesn't go over 30. It's
Right.
insane. It doesn't go over doesn't yeah, it doesn't even go over 25, which is just insane for a defense to do all season. Even in the week 18 game when like none of their starters are playing, it's just crazy to see. Um and not a very injury team either. Not a this team wasn't really plagued by injuries other than week 1 when Travis Kelsey was hurt against the Lions. And I don't want anyone to say, "Oh, well, that's why the Lions won was because they didn't have their best guys on the team and all that stuff." We do not care. I'm gonna be like the Steelers, the Steelers head coach on that one. We do not care
We do not
because
care.
we do not care. Um, Overall, with all the ups and downs and doubts that this Kansas City Chiefs team had, plus with a little bit of a spotlight from Taylor Swift and the referees, this team did make it here again, the second year in a row. So, and I do have to give props. I have to. In order to be professional, I have to give them props
Well,
because
and
I want
that's
to be
the
professional.
thing. Yes, we gotta give them props because, at the end of the day, anybody could say anything they want realistically. You could say, the refs had they helped them when they needed it, and to be fair, I mean, they kind of did, but they still ended up winning the games. They still ended up overcoming adversity. They had wide receivers who really didn't play well. And that was a scare. They had a lot of doubt. They had a lot of people saying, myself included, Snyder included, and
Me
anybody else
included.
who said, hey, they have to go on the road in Buffalo. Like, there's no chance they're going to beat Buffalo in the road, in the snow, um, in a night game, in a playoffs. Like, it's just not going to happen. And then it did. And, again, anybody can make any excuse, say, oh, well, Tyler Bass, or say, oh, well, this, or oh, well, that. But let's talk about reality. They won the game. You can make any excuse you want. You could say whatever you want. They still won. And then on top of that, the next week, they got to go into Baltimore. And we all thought, anybody on this
Yeah.
thing here, aside from one guy, said Baltimore gonna win. They got it. And we talked a lot about the run game. We talked a lot about Lamar Jackson. We talked a lot about the crowd in Baltimore and things of that nature. And here you go again. Kansas City steps up to the plate. They're unfazed. They attack, and Todd Monken just, I mean, or
Crapped his pants
Harbaugh,
and
whoever
sat in
decided
a
the fact
corner.
that they cannot run the football, really screwed up this game. So, um, that has to be taken into account. Something else I want to talk to you about, though, Pizza, while we're on the topic of the Chiefs and their season. Let's look at this draft class that they had. Now, remember, like you mentioned, they won the Super Bowl, so they had the last pick in the first round, and this was how their draft went. They picked Felix. I
Felix,
can speak English.
you said the easy part of his name wrong.
I know. U- Uzuma, is that? Did we?
I
I'm
think
not pronouncing
Uzuma.
the middle name, middle
Uzoma, I
hyphen.
think.
And then they get Rasheed Rice out of SMU. They get Lana Morris out of Oklahoma, which again, right now, just kind of a depth piece in the O line. I don't believe we've seen much of him. Uh, and then Connor from Va Tech, Chamaria Connor, who was a safety. He got mentioned a few times. He played, really good whenever he was, it was his time to shine. BJ Thomas, again, adding to that linebacker depth in need. And then you go Corbin from Texas, the DT, help out the line. And then you end it off with Nick Jones out of Ball State, cornerback. And, Pizza, my question with you here is, I mean, how do they keep getting away with this? You think that, okay, players are getting older, they don't have the depth they once did, and then they have a draft like this, and they have a dominating draft as we're looking back this year. Like Rasheed Rice had an amazing year, Felix had some really good plays. Connor, when he was needed, he stepped up in the role. BJ Thompson had some really nice plays. How do they keep getting away with this? And how important was this draft in shaping this year for the Chiefs?
Cole, I wish I couldn't give you an answer, but I think the overlooming answer is obviously Andy Reid. Andy Reid has been known as the guy to like get some guy out of some college that doesn't get a lot of coverage, like, and make them a superstar. Look what he did with the Kelsey brothers. Jason and
Right,
Travis Kelsey weren't. Yeah, they were like in the talking rooms a bit, but at the time that they were drafted, they were like, "Who's Jason Kelsey?" Can you imagine thinking that now? Who's this Jason Kelsey center guy? Like, he's from Cincinnati. Oh, he has a brother who's a tight end. Oh, he's playing in Cincinnati too. Andy Reid drafted Travis Kelsey, his brother, but for a different team because Andy Reid was for the Eagles when he drafted Jason, and then went to the Chiefs and drafted Travis. So like Andy Reid has been in this game for so long, and he has such a mind for looking at young talent, not just like in Power Five schools or any conferences or anything like that. And he has a will to like pick out a person and be like, I'm gonna make this guy a star. You
right, to
just
see the
watch.
tendencies.
Yes, like he catches on to things that are very small, minute that like 80% of coaches in the NFL won't catch on to, and he will find a clip or a play or a read that someone will do and be like, this guy right here. So I think the way drafting works with the Chiefs, I think Andy Reid is like the biggest reason why this draft class worked so well, even though they were obviously, yeah, last pick in the draft, as you said, and still getting amazing depth or talent or just amazing roster to add on to the already great one that they already had.
Right.
So
That's a
yeah,
great
that's my
answer.
reasoning. Right. Thank you. Um, but yeah, going more into Travis Kelsey, this was again like Patrick Mahomes, sort of his down year, but still found a way to be an amazing tight end for this team. Travis Kelsey overall they were the number one receiver. Cole receiver. He counts as a receiver. Cole.
Yeah, if that's
um,
what you want to claim.
only played 15 games out of his 17 game season. Got 93 receptions, 121 targets, and 984 yards with 5 touchdowns. Again, a little bit of a lesser year than what we usually see the production from Travis Kelsey. Maybe as he's getting up in age, or he's worried about Taylor Swift more than others, but we will never know, really. But again, like I said, even though this is his down year, he's still playing better than most tight ends in the league.
Well, that's a very true point. If you look at the tight end list there are very few better than Travis Kelsey, even like you just said, on a down year. And you also got to think, like, nobody wants to talk about this. I haven't seen many people mention it, but when you look at Travis Kelsey, teams who are playing against the Chiefs still have him as a massive target. So while the numbers look unimpressive to some degree of what we normally see, we also got to keep in mind that these are teams that are literally like, okay, Travis Kelsey, we cannot get beat by Travis Kelsey. Anybody else on the field, sure, not Travis Kelsey.
And
And
every time he finds a way to get open.
exactly,
It
yeah.
kills me. It kills me, but I cannot deny it.
But he opened up kind of the way, if you look at this offense and the structure, he opened up so that way Rashee Rice could get involved. As I mentioned, rookie first year guy. He played absolutely great this year. Marquez, I'm not even saying that. MVS, let's just say the nice way. He's really coming to his own, especially in the postseason. He's had some really impressive plays. Isaiah Pacheco was another name that, again, he inherited so much because of the scaredness of this passing attack, that he was able to be a good dual back. He was able to, rack up yards on the ground and in the passing game. Jerick McKinnon for a little bit was good, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, some of you are gonna, kind of sigh at that name, kind of think whatever, but whenever they needed just an extra push or a guy to block, like, he's been there. He's been an unsung hero. I know on the stat sheet, you won't see that, but if you watch him whenever they need something, he's just kind of the utility guy. Like, hey, what do you need? All right, I got you. Cool. Um, and not a lot of people will see that, but I'll bring that up.
Yeah, I like that. I like when you point out guys that like don't have much shine and don't have much gold on the stat sheet as people might believe, and then you're like, wait, if you actually watch the games, you can see that he does more than what this piece of paper says. But yeah, overall, in my sentence for Chiefs in review, um, farther than we expected and farther than we wanted is what I'm saying.
Yes. Nailed it.
Anything else to add to this Chiefs season?
I mean, no, I think we covered everything. I mean, the defense played good, and then I guess the only other thing we didn't really talk about was Harrison Butker for the kicking game. Like, he has
Oh yeah,
been money. Like,
on
33
fire.
field goals, 38 PATs, 137 points. Like, this guy, what is there to hate about him? I mean, he's just, to me,
He's
he's
the
like
chief. That's why.
He's he's got to be my favorite kicker. I know you'll say Justin Tucker. I'm gonna say Harrison Butker. I love watching him play. I love his humility. I love how he never tries to drag the attention on him. He's Catholic and he lives it. He lives it from what he shows on the field. He lives it off the field. That's how you're supposed to be. And I love Harrison Butker. I'll just say that. And Tommy Townsend, hey, give some punters some love. He had a pretty good season too.
Punters matter too.
Yes.
Punters are people too.
All right, but what about that other team?
JT
Who
all
are
the
they
way, man.
playing?
I don't know. No, obviously the other team that the Kansas City Chiefs are playing are the San Francisco 49ers. Both teams are in red, yellow, and white.
It's going to be an
Man,
interesting matchup.
when I tell you that this was one of the few teams that caught my eye, man, like this really was, because I look on their I look at their roster, I look at how they played last year, I look at what they sort of struggled at, and then I was like, man, like this team is the best team on paper. I'm saying on paper because like the best team wins every game, barely loses, stuff like that. They still had, they still had some losses, 12-5, but overall, like if where is there to like not like about this team? You got let's not talk about Rack Party for a second. You got arguably the best receiving core in the NFL right now. You got Debo Samuel, you got Brandon Ayuk, you got George Kittle, you got Juwan Jennings, you got Ray McLeod, and then even at fullback you got Kyle Juszczyk. And whenever Christian McCaffrey wants to be a wide receiver as well, you got him. Like, man, like what other wide receiver core has this potential and talent? I don't think there is one, Cole.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I mean, this whole team, like it, we talked about the Chiefs defense potentially being the best defense in Chiefs history, maybe. Let's talk about the Niners offense here, and the Niners,
Yes,
I think, best offense in their history because,
I think so too.
like you were saying, you got, Purdy who's coming into his own.
His
You got
sophomore year,
He said sophomore year too, and he was
Mr.
Mr.
Irrelevant.
Irrelevant. Yeah, like how do we get here? That's crazy. And then on top of that, you got this guy in the backfield named Christian McCaffrey. He's pretty decent, just okay. And then
Just the
for
running
the
back
wide,
that's in the MVP race. Not that big of a
yeah,
deal or anything.
nothing too huge. And then you look at this wide receiving core, and I'm just gonna, give two names here. We can give a lot more, but I'm just for the sake of the video. Brandon Ayuk, what a season.
Man,
And then Debo Samuel. I mean, I don't need to say anything else. That already is elite in terms of wide receivers. But then you got other guys who come on and add just so much to this. So I mentioned the Chiefs whole team. I'll retract that. We'll talk about Juwan Jennings. He had some really good moments for this team, and he was another guy who was drafted later on, came from Tennessee. Not a lot of people thought he was going to be good, and then he shocks everybody. He makes some really good plays. Chris Conley, he came in for a little bit, didn't do a whole lot, but he still contributes. And then Ray McLeod. So just kind of a fun wide receiving room to say the least. And then of course, don't forget the fullback. Yes, that position still exists in this era of
what's a
football.
fullback?
Pretty soon, I don't know if it'll exist, but you got the best fullback in the country in Kyle Juszczyk, so that doesn't hurt either.
Yeah,
And also Tyrone Davis Price, another guy in the backfield who, just they're so sad. Can I just say that they're sad? They're good,
right. Well, you focused on the offense. I want to give some light on this defense really quickly. And man, when I tell you this defense, probably even more impressive looking than the Chiefs defense. We got Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. You got Nick Bosa, and then in the midseason you get Chase Young as well.
It's ridiculous.
Like,
that was a number 2 pick, by the way.
Yeah, a number 2 pick a couple years ago. Plus, you got Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, Kevin Givens. Like, dude, this defense is just incredible to see. Plus, Travarius Ward is, man, incredible. I have to say, like this again. I said it in the beginning of the season, in the preseason, that this 49ers team has potential to go all the way, and look where they are now. They're in the Super Bowl against the reigning, defending Kansas City Chiefs. Like it's just so bizarre to me how so much talent can be on one roster.
Well, and let me bend your ear to this, which is even crazier, in my humble opinion. Remember how we were talking about the Chiefs and we said, they had the last pick in the first round, and it's tough to draft good in that spot. Well, how about this team who did not have a first or a second round pick? They started in the third round, and they got Jair Brown from Penn State. They got Jake Moody from Michigan,
Best
kicker.
school ever.
Cameron Latu from Alabama, tight end. Darrell Luther Jr., cornerback from South Alabama. Robert Beal Jr., a defensive end from Georgia. D. Winters, an inside linebacker from TCU. Braden Willis, tight end from Oklahoma. Ronnie Bell, wide receiver again from that school in maize and blue, the Michigan Wolverines. And then Jalen Graham to end it off, outside linebacker out of Purdue. And again, I'm going to say something here that might sound a little nuts, but this draft did not help as much as the Chiefs draft, but it's scary because these guys get to sit back, not all of them, like Jake Moody, of course, has made plays, Jair Brown,
Juwan Jennings.
Yeah, well, no, Juwan Jennings was a few years ago. And D. Winters has also made a few plays.
Oh, wait, not Juwan Jennings. I meant Ronnie Bell. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, Ronnie
I said
Bell.
Juwan Jennings.
But everybody else is kind of laying in the shadows, learning. Yeah, that's scary. Learning from players who are dominating the league. Just picture this for a moment. You got Cameron Latu learning from George Kittle. You got Robert Beal Jr. learning from Chase Young, and off that other edge is pretty good too, Nick Bosa. Then you got D. Winters, who's learning, that word again, from Fred Warner, who might be the best middle linebacker in the NFL today. I mean, you could definitely throw his name in there. You got Braden Willis, who's also learning from George Kittle. Ronnie Bell, who's learning from Deebo Samuel, and why is he slipping my name right now? Oh gosh.
Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, Ayuk. I could not think of him for the life of me, but that is how scary this class is, and it's a different tale from Kansas City. Kansas City needed guys to come in and make an impact, and they did. 49ers needed these guys to go, look, some of you're just going to be deaf. You're going to sit there, you're going to listen, and when your time comes, because of these years, you're going to be that much better. And that, like, to have that luxury in today's NFL is insane.
Right. Now, I want to take this up on the lead. I want to talk about the man leading this team. I want to talk about Brock Purdy. Now, I know leading this team, it might have been Christian McCaffrey or some people. I'm going to talk about the quarterback, Brock Purdy.
Yep.
Now, the whole synopsis, this guy is Mr. Irrelevant. He gets drafted. No one thinks he's going to be a starter. No one thinks he's even going to touch the field, maybe. He comes in the later season last year because Trey Lance goes down and their second goes down. I forget who he wasn't. Sam Darnold.
Jimmy Garoppolo initially, and then
Jimmy Garoppolo.
I thought somebody else went down too, but I don't remember.
I don't remember either. Anyway, they go down with an injury, and then Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, comes in, and what does he do? He balls out. Now, the speculation back then, and even some are still saying today, is that, he's a system quarterback. Look at this team around him. He has literally the best receiving core, the best running back, not the best O-line, but like a pretty decent, solid O-line. And, it's hard not to think that. But then he keeps on going in the playoffs. And then eventually he injures his arm in the NFC Championship game against the Eagles. Eagles beat the Niners in that game and go to the Super Bowl to lose to the Chiefs. Now, like, one of the biggest questions going into this season was now, how is Brock Purdy going to perform in this, in his sophomore season. He only got maybe like 5 games to play to play against. And then he comes in, he puts on a show for 5 games, beats the Steelers by 30, beats the Rams by 30, beats the Giants by 30, beats the Cardinals by 35, and then beats the Cowboys by 42. And then they go on a 3-game losing streak, kind of like, oh, well, you were on this hot streak, time to get a little bit of a low streak right now, losing to the Browns, Vikings, and Bengals. And then they pick back up. And when I mean pick back up, they pick back up. They beat the Jaguars, the Bucks, the Seahawks, the Eagles, the Seahawks again, and then the Cardinals, and then they took a loss to the Ravens on Christmas, and then they beat the Commanders, and then lost to the Rams on Week 18 when no one was starting.
Well, and let me, backtrack that for just a moment. There's 2 points of the season that I'm going to bring up. The first one was that 3-game skid when they lose to the Browns, they lose to the Vikings, they lose to the Bengals, all in 3 weeks. There was a lot of doubt. There was like, hey, well, maybe this team's fallen off. And then, the Brock Purdy comments about, I told you couldn't do it, told you wasn't all that great, blah, blah, blah. And then to have that comeback through the season, and it started in dominant fashion, might I add, against a really good Jaguars team. Like, that was a game that we thought, if I remember correctly, was going to be a close one. Maybe the Niners get their feet back, but, Jaguars, they'll probably edge it out. And then what happened?
Decimated.
Just ripped apart in front of God and everybody else. Like, oh, that was brutal.
It was sad to see.
And now the second part that I'm going to bring up, because there was a lot of flack. I keep receipts. What can I say?
I think I know what you're going to talk about.
The Ravens game.
Mm-hmm.
This was the game, like Pizza and I were excited about this. We talked about this on the show. We were so excited to see, but
literally like the best Christmas game. Christmas plate is served, ready to feast upon. Like, this was the game.
And I remember us talking about this game, and for the whole time before the show, even we were going back and forth. We're like, okay, who's gonna win this game? Like, what's gonna be the flip table here? And we both gave the advantage to the Ravens because of experience, because how would Brock Purdy react in the big time? How would things go for this team when they're tested? And that loss, in my opinion, willed this team to what happened in the postseason. Because, I know people were losing hope during the Packers game. It looked ugly. It wasn't a pretty victory, but they fought. They were gritty. They made plays when they had to. And they ended up winning that one by 3. Then they play the Lions. Pizza, I'm sorry. But
hey man, it happens.
Yeah, the Lions get this massive lead. They're up 24-7. And then the Niners, it's like, hey, it's fold or go. There's no, like Carl Weathers would say, or Apollo Creed in Rocky 3, there is no tomorrow. And they get that message. They fight back. Yes, Dan Campbell kind of helped in some regards of not taking points, but they fought back, and they ended up getting another 3-point win. And now, we got this great matchup coming up, and it's like, where do you go? This is 2 teams. They're both established. They're both incredible. I mean, how do we
at the time Super Bowl, like, predicting like these teams were going to meet up in the Super Bowl? It's could not write that better.
No.
But this this whole Brock Purdy thing, we've all heard, oh, he's a system quarterback, he's a game manager, he isn't a game changer, and then he continues to throw dots after dots after dots in the games, and then people don't pay attention to that. They see a check down that goes through a touchdown, and it's like, oh, well, that's all he does. And it was just getting tired to see, and I'm glad that in the last coming weeks we have seen people defend Brock Purdy on he is a legit quarterback case. Like what we've been doing mainly, I'd say since like week what, like week 4?
Yep.
Yeah,
I
because
think it was around then.
yeah, because we're not gonna say, oh, we didn't really think that either, because we thought that. I thought that because
Well, I didn't. I will say I did not.
I did because at first, because it's like, oh, look at this team around him. Is it just because of Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle and Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey? The list just kept going on and on and on. And it was like, oh, is it just because of that? And then after the weeks went on, I was like, no, dude, like this is it. Like this, he is him. He is him. Plus, he's getting paid like less than some of the top quarterbacks in the league by like 50 times.
So much, yeah. Well, and I will attribute this, of course, Jacob, as I've mentioned, he's young into football and he said it, but the ability to be able to watch Brock Purdy in college, you saw the tremendous potential that he could bring. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I was the biggest Brock Purdy fan at Iowa State. I kind of thought he'd be okay. I did not expect this, though. I mean, this is next level.
Man, won't it suck when next season he gets like traded to a different team and it's like he cannot complete a pass, and yeah, he can't complete a pass. He gets sacked every time, even though he has a lot of time in the pocket. Like he's just a completely horrible player outside of the 49ers. All of our takes just go in the garbage. And then Cam Newton gets to brag, see, I told you he was a game manager while wearing a funky hat. Anyway, the sentence I would give this 49ers year in review. You made it. Keep the wheels turning. That's what I would say.
I don't have a sentence. I got one word. And you know what that word is? Expected.
Okay. I thought you were about to say bet for a second.
I mean, Jake Moody is there. Ronnie Bell. They might like that.
Yeah. All right. So that is our years in review for these two teams, man. Now it's time to make our predictions about the Super Bowl. All right. And now, why don't you start it off with Super Bowl, with your Super Bowl 58 predictions in Las Vegas?
Whew. Man, pressure's on now. Lights are here. Let's do it. So obviously, we've talked about this. Everybody knows the ins and outs. Everybody knows the players by now. Here's what's going to happen. This is how it's going down in Vegas, boys.
He knows the script.
Yeah. NFL could have potentially sent me one. I don't know. They might have to change it after. Or maybe I wrote it. We'll see. So, Kansas City and San Fran, they're going to be back and forth in each other's faces all night. But there's going to be one play that separates this game, that separates the champions from the losers. And it's going to be, I think, a Patrick Mahomes pick, a Kansas City turnover, and the 49ers return to a spot that they have not achieved in a while. Super Bowl champs again. Get the trumpets blaring. Give me them Niners. Brock Purdy, baby.
I like to hear that. Now it's time for my prediction. You look at these two teams, these two powerhouses of the NFL. These are they both were red, white, and yellow. These two teams never had a.
Quick, to cut you off, sorry. I also want to say, Niner gang, that was for you. I remember you. That was for you, buddy. Sorry, Jake. Keep
Oh,
going.
yeah, our Niner subscriber. Anyway, you just look at these two juggernauts of the NFL. You look at these guys, they almost can't be stopped. The Niners had a tricky road getting here, almost losing both of their playoff games against the Packers and the Lions. And then you look at Kansas City, which they had a less tougher road, I would say. But they still had tough times beating the Bills, the Ravens, and the Dolphins. Just, it's either having trouble stopping people on defense or having trouble on offense, getting connections going. So the question is, who's going to win this game? This is the Super Bowl. This is what every person in America watches.
I mean, Taylor Swift's going to be there.
Taylor Swift might be there because she has a tour in Japan. Anyway.
Sorry, Travis.
Besides that, how can you go against these Kansas City Chiefs? You have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, and you have Isaiah Pacheco and Rashee Rice and Chris Jones and Ladarius Sneed, and you have all these people on this defense. Well, guess what, baby? This Super Bowl 58 matchup, the Niners are going to make a crucial point in this game. Brock Purdy is one of the quickest learners that we can see in the NFL. Brock Purdy has recovered from that, tough time in week 16 against the Baltimore Ravens. Both of these teams are going to march into Las Vegas, and the San Francisco 49ers will be named Super Bowl champions once again. Bang, bang, Niner gang, baby.
I love it.
All right, man. Now that is our Super Bowl predictions. I hope each and every single one of you that will watch this in the future have an amazing Super Bowl weekend and just an amazing future. I hope each and every single one of you gets with family and enjoys the Super Bowl matchup. And you just have a fun time, man.
Or if you're alone, join the Discord. Come join us.
Join the Discord. Yes, also join the Discord. Just a shameless plug from Cole.
Heck yeah, dude. Let's get that word out there, baby.
All right, man. But we will see you guys next time. I am Jay from JCP. And have a great time, you beautiful broken chairs out there. We're out.
God bless y'all.